Canada. He's in St. John, I'm in Fredericton. So we can give you the best of both worlds, explain how to get to St. John, how to get to Fredericton. And yeah, enough talk, let's get into it.
Yep, so we have few questions here that were sent in before the start of the live. So while we are going to be monitoring the chat, we will read out those questions that we had prior to the chat and answer them. Hopefully, some of the answers may be answers to the questions you may already be having.
Yeah.
Right. And again, you can feel free to drop in your questions in the chat. We'll answer them as well. And a quick disclaimer, everything we are going to say here is based on our own experiences. We are not immigration consultants, and we are not offering such immigration consultancy service for now. So everything here, disclaimer, is just based on our own experiences and also on our advice. Okay?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
So I'm going to start asking the questions and Kwame would answer, and then we rotate from there. So the very first question we have is, when is the best time to apply to study in Canada?
Well, I would say the best time is once you think or you already think of studying in Canada, at least 1 year in advance is the best time to start your preparation. Usually, admissions for school opens a year prior to the intake. So, assuming you want to come to school in 2023 fall, this is the time to already start your application. As an example, my school, the school that both of us actually attended, admission opened a month ago. I would say the beginning of this month actually, for next year. So you should already prepare a year in advance and apply a year in advance.
Yeah, especially if you're an international student. So if you check the school's website, that's NBCC, New Brunswick Community College, they may still have some seats open. That's what they like to call it, meaning that there are still spots available. But these are usually for either local students, that's like Canadians, PR, people with PR, or such people, or people whose visa processes don't take too long. So you might still apply and not get a seat. It will tell you it's waitlisted, but you check the website and you're like, but we still see that seats are there. So why are you waitlisting me? It's just because you may not be like a local, maybe you don't have PR, you're not a citizen, or they anticipate that the visa process might take longer. But yeah, basically, as he said. So the second question, how soon should I apply for visa when I get my LOA? So LOA is a letter of acceptance. Yeah.
Yeah, so for that, I would say as soon as you can, for several reasons. One of them is that usually you are not sure of getting your visa or not, even though we are usually, highly optimistic that we will get it. It's advisable to apply well in advance so that in any case, if you get rejected, you would have enough time to reapply, and for any reason, if you need to defer your course, then you can let your school know so they can shift your admission to another year or another term. Also, for some countries, visa processing may take a lot of time. It can take from weeks to months. I've heard of situations where people had to wait for like 6 months for their study visa. So these are some of the reasons why it's important. Once you get your letter of admission, you already start, gathering your documents. You can already, gather your documents even before the letter of admission arrives, right? Those documents, the supporting documents that you need, make sure you have them ready so that once the letter of acceptance is ready, you can just put in your application. Okay, so we'll go on to the next question. I'm going to be asking Anna the next two questions. How much should I have in my bank account?
Well, for Canada, minimum $10,000 Canadian dollars for your living expenses plus a year's worth of your let's say school fees, if I should put it. So if you're coming for a 1-year program like I did, then you should have, the school fee was about, let's say, a little shy of 13,000 Canadian dollars. So you should have that amount of money, and about $10,000 Canadian dollars living guys, I don't want to keep saying Canadian dollars, so whenever I say dollars, it's going to be Canadian dollars. So just in case I forget to say Canadian dollars, but basically about 22,000 Canadian dollars in total. That's $12,000 for your school fees and $10,000 for living expenses. Now bear in mind, if you are coming as a bachelor student or your program is for 2 years or more, you should have more than $10,000 living expenses, and your 1 year fee might be more or less. So all these things, you need to check the school that you're applying to's website. If you're not sure, they always have like means of communication. We did do a video about that where I showed you a couple of schools in New Brunswick, and you use the same step for schools in Canada. Just go to their website, shoot them an email, try to call them with their international calling if you're not sure about the question. But that's basically 10,000 living expenses for 1 year plus the 1 year school fees. Yeah.
Awesome. So next question I have here: can my relative sponsor me?
This is a really tricky question, guys, because if you are coming from Africa or Ghana, relative is very broad. Like your cousins, your relative, stepsister, even like your mother's friend who is not a direct family member, but you call them uncle, is your relative. But I'll say yes, your relative can sponsor you, but only your nuclear family, and you should show strong proof of ties to that person. If your dad is sponsoring you, that's your biological father, or maybe your stepdad or your adopted dad, for instance, you need to show proof of they being your family. So their proof of ID, your proof of ID, if it's your biological dad, a birth certificate. I mean, just throw all that in there to increase your chances of not getting rejected. But yes, your biological family can sponsor you. If it's not a biological family member, maybe second cousin, brother-in-law, usually those cases are pretty dicey. So I personally would say that look at having the person transfer the funds into your bank account, because you're going to use that money anyway, and then use your own bank account as your proof of funds or proof of income. But if they are your nuclear family, just have those additional IDs and proof of relationship, and they can use their bank account to sponsor you, definitely. Okay, so next question for Kwame: how easy is it to get scholarships in Canada?
Well, it's not that easy, even though people will tell you, yeah, there are a lot of scholarships here and all of that. From our experience, it's not that easy.
No.
Again, it usually depends on the schools. Most people may decide to check with the schools if they have like some internal scholarships and all that. From our experience, our school had something they called the bursary, and you could only apply for this if you are already a student. So
Yeah.
you should have been admitted to the school and you should have started the fall semester in order to apply. Now, the bursary, it's in itself is very competitive. So it's not as if when you apply, you just get it automatically.
Yeah.
And I believe they look at a whole bunch of things. You have to write a statement. You have to explain why you need the money. I guess they are looking at, giving it to someone who really needs it. And if they're able to justify the reason why they need that bursary, they give it to them. And in our school, it wasn't that much. I think it was like $1,000.
Oh, like 500 to 1,000.
Yeah, 500 to 1,000. So definitely this is not something that can pay your tuition. It's just to like probably support you with your books and maybe 1 month living.
11.
For other schools, I know of other schools that, again, they have their own internal scholarships, and they may give it based on merit. They may give it based on your volunteering experience, and it's always advisable to check with the school well in advance, even before you apply, so you know the criteria required to apply for these scholarships. So I wouldn't say it is easy. I mean, there are people who still make it through and still get some of these scholarships, but I know in most cases you need to have very good grades, and your past experience volunteering and all of that is considered as well.
Yes, for sure. And I have a couple questions. I think these questions, I'll put them together because they are pretty much the same question. So it's a 3-in-1 question, well, 4-in-1 question. Basically, can you work in Canada as a student? What kind of jobs can you get on campus as a student? And can you work to pay your fees and living expenses? And the last one, when you get the study and work permit, does that make, when you get the study permit with no work permit, can you still work full-time for your practicum? I think for the last one, maybe you would take it separately, but
Yeah.
it's like all about working as a student, how long you can work, can the duration of your work actually give you enough funds to cover your fees and the kind of jobs students usually get on campus. And we can also talk about off campus as well.
Right. This is a very interesting question, and I know for many, coming to study here is a financial burden. So you want to find ways how you can sustain yourself while you live here. And talking about if you can work while you are here. So when you are issued your student visa, you can only work up to 20 hours per week as a student. You cannot do more than that. If you attempt to do more than that, then you are probably going to put yourself into trouble. And some people may feel they wouldn't know, but they can find out. So you can only do 20 hours max when school is in session. So which means during the normal term or the normal semester, 20 hours, both on campus and off campus. Now, during your scheduled breaks, so let's say your winter break or your summer break or your, whichever long breaks you have, student success weeks as well, you can work full time. So let's say if it's a 1 week break from school, you can do the normal 40 hours per week. But aside that, you are limited to working 20 hours off and on campus. And regarding if your student visa didn't come with a work visa, if you are still eligible to work as a student, yes, you are. So what happens with the work permit you get with your study visa? That's a co-op work permit. For some programs, they have co-op attached with them. Co-op means, your practical or internship attached to your program of study. Yeah. And this is a special visa that allows you to work full-time for a company, a designated company by the school. So let's say the school selects a company where you have to go to do your co-op at the end of, let's say, your summer term for 3 months or 2 months or whatever. That's the purpose of the co-op work permit. So even if you don't have a co-op work permit, which means that your program doesn't support co-op internship or practicum after the end of your studies, you are still allowed to work 20 hours per week, right? So you don't really need a co-op to work those 20 hours as a student.
Yeah, for sure. And would you like to touch on the kind of jobs on and off campus?
Yes, right. So typically as a student, the jobs you can find out here are the normal student jobs, working at restaurants, working, in the shops as a cashier. We've had stories where some people became securities, and most of the time you can only do these jobs because of your class schedule, because as a student you are required, the main reason why you came here is to study. So you are required to be in school during school session. And most of the jobs out here, especially for those that maybe for an accounting job or for business development, they require you to be there in the morning. And those times will conflict with your study time. So mostly as a student, you can only find jobs as a cashier, as a shop attendant, working in a restaurant, McDonald's, Tim Hortons, and all of that. And for those, it is super easy to find. I would say we actually did a video on a YouTube video on some of the places where you can drop your CVs. You can just go into these shops, drop your CV, let them know that you are open to work, and you can go into work, after school, overnight and all of that.
On the weekends.
On the weekends as well.
And one thing he didn't talk about is you can actually do customer service jobs. So now because of, COVID was like a blessing in disguise, because some of these customer service jobs have now moved to fully remote, overnight. They need extra people, extra hours, extra shifts. So you can also do customer service jobs like telesales, telemarketing, or customer support, chat support, all in the comfort of your home. Now, getting those kind of jobs are not easy for a student just because of the time constraints. So you need to also bear that in mind. Look at your school schedule, look at the work schedule, and make sure that you are not sacrificing one for the other. So in as much as you need a job, but you also need your student status to be on point so that you can remain in Canada. And the last one was about, let me see. So can you work to pay your fees and living expenses?
Well, so this question again, I get people asking me this a lot of time, and I think it would be very difficult, especially if that is your main focus, that you came in here with no money and you're expecting to work here 20 hours a week to be able to pay your, let's say, your tuition fee or your living cost.
With a job which is like 11,
Yeah.
15, $20 an hour, it's quite difficult.
Yeah, that would be very difficult. And again, these jobs that you find as a student job, you are usually paid the minimum wage, right? Here in New Brunswick, until recently, the minimum wage was around $11.5. It got increased by $1 to 12.5, and I think in October it will go up to 13.5. So this is the amount you are going to be earning per week, per hour, and for 20 hours. So you can do the calculation yourself, and this is a gross amount, right? So which means at the end of the month you have to take out your tax, you pay tax to the government, and after all this, your money is more or less more or less finished. So you can do the calculation yourself. It will give you an understanding of how much you will take home at the end of the month. And most of the time, from our experience, it would be very, very difficult to work here to pay your tuition fee and also to sustain your living.
Well, I think I'm gonna do a breakdown of the cost and how much you earn, because people who are not here need to understand. They need to see how does that like balance out. So probably in next couple of videos, because we still have some videos lined up. So in next couple of videos, I'm gonna walk you guys through. I like to do the walkthrough videos, so I'm gonna walk you guys through realistically, if you're working like in a shop or you're working in a restaurant, how much you're going to earn as a student and what your average cost as a student will be, and see if we can match them and you can actually pay. But to add to what Kwame said, you need to come with at least half of your living and school fees, your living expenses and school fees, or else you cannot work and pay. But definitely I'm going to touch more on that in a separate video, full video, take you through the breakdown and everything.
Yeah, and also just to add a little to that, because there is one question here that's asking for the advice for those who are thinking of coming to work and pay their tuition fee. So it's not automatic that immediately you arrive here and you apply for student jobs you are going to get, right? It may take time, it may take few months, it may take few weeks for you to get that student job. And it could also be for some reason that your program may be very demanding that you may not even get the time to work, even if you had the opportunity to work, right? Because again, you need to make sure you are in good academic standing, because that's the reason why you came here. So you don't want to risk it, go working and fail your courses and be withdrawn from your program. So at least for the first few months, you need to make sure you have enough money to cover, your living, your expenses and all that. So that eventually, when you find a job, you can take it from there.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask the next question, and what we have here, someone is saying, what if you don't finish paying your first term fees on time, and in that semester, what happens?
Well, they're going to kick you out of the school, basically. But yeah, that's what's going to happen. But I know that every school has their own specific grace period or extension period. So, and we are human, things happen. You might have an emergency at home or even with yourself that you need to use your funds that you've set aside for school for. So when you're applying for a school, talk to them about all these kind of contingency plans. What is the grace period? Check the websites, because I believe when I was doing the website, the cheapest schools in Canada video, on the website of NBCC, there was a grace period for extension of fees or something like this. But always double check. If you're not sure, shoot them an email, shoot them, try to call them to make sure. But basically, if after the grace period and the extension period you still haven't paid, you are going to be withdrawn from the school and the program, and that means that now you don't have a valid reason to stay in Canada. So you are either overstaying, which is illegal and grounds for deportation, or you need to go back home, figure things out, and come back. So that's why we are saying try to make sure that your finances are locked at least 50% before you take, the risk and come here. Basically, yeah.
Yep. So make sure don't think that you come here and if you don't pay your fees, the school would overlook it. You will be withdrawn after the final deadline. So please take note. The next question here, Nana, is how soon can I apply for my PR?
How soon can you apply for a PR? And guys, everything we or I say about PR, about immigration, express entry, all that stuff, it's from our own knowledge, our own research. We are not immigration consultants. You need to do your own research, take due diligence whenever you're looking at information presented by third parties who are not licensed immigration consultants. So I just had to say that again. But basically, how soon you can apply for your PR really depends on the province you are living in or schooling in or applying for, and then the general express entry nomination or whatever clauses or stuff like this. So for PR, for New Brunswick, for instance, New Brunswick has different streams. They have the New Brunswick PMP, they have AIP, and then we have Express Entry. And even under that, we have Experience Class, and we have so many other ones. So you as an individual looking at your status, if you're a student, go there, check which ones do you qualify as a student, and you would understand what are the criteria or the requirements. But basically, I can tell you that if you meet all the requirements for FSW or the experience class, you can even apply while in school or even before school. But as I say, you need to check if you meet the criteria. If you're applying for NBPMP, head to the website, check out the requirements. For students last year, they brought out this stream where students could apply 3 months to graduation. And just this month, that was June, right? Just June, this stream or this opportunity for students was suspended or put on hold due to backlog and whatever internal reasons we are not aware of. So now that opportunity at the moment is no longer available for students in New Brunswick. But regardless, there are so many streams. So you do your own research, do your own due diligence, and make sure you choose the one which is best for you.
Yep. And I think you can head to the Canada.ca website as well. You would find the various pathways to immigration, pathways to becoming permanent residents of Canada. Assess your own situation and see which one will work best for you. And it's always important to read this in advance, even before you arrive, so that you have a plan, so that you know that immediately I'm done with school, this is the pathway I would apply to. And again, it requires a lot of documentation. So make sure you read thoroughly, know what is required of you, and start preparing ahead of time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And next question, how easy is it to find a job after school?
This is also a good one because, again, people come here and they expect that immediately after school you find a job and you get the ball rolling, but it's not always the case. I mean, finding a job, the school will do their own part, their own parts. They would, they will organize job fairs, info sessions, how to prepare your resume and all of these things. But when it comes to applying for the job, you would have to do it yourself. And again, for some individuals, it may be faster depending on your program of study, and for some, it may be a bit slower.
Yeah.
It's always advisable to attend such job fairs. It could be virtual or in person. That's where you get to meet employers, you can get to interact with them, you can get to ask questions, you get to know what they do. And out here, we have realized from our own experience that getting a job here is mostly based on your networking. Right? It doesn't really matter how much experience you had from your home country. It doesn't really matter so much. Well, your background do matter. Definitely, it needs to align with whatever role you are applying for. But the networking is what will get you there, at least to have that interview. So while you are here, be looking out for those. LinkedIn is a good avenue to network, to see job opportunities, Indeed, Glassdoor, and all these places. So I wouldn't say it's super easy to find something. It may be a bit daunting trying to find jobs or hunt for jobs here, but eventually if you if you keep your eyes up, if you network, and if you keep applying and keep pushing, you may eventually find something. Nana, do you want to add anything to this?
Well, what I can say is if you want to know about our personal experiences looking for jobs, then just comment and I'm going to share my personal experience because right now I just graduated from my program and I don't have a job. So it's not easy. It's not easy. I'll share my personal experience, all the things I did, which were suggested, why they worked, why some didn't work. And when I finally get a job, I'm going to share what was the one thing or the specific things I did that worked and what that made me get a job. And one thing to also note is that um, here in Canada, like from the get-go, immediately you come to the province or the city, you should already start networking. It's something that we take for granted, but networking, even if you can volunteer at the YMCA, volunteering on campus, whatever it is, put yourself out there. I know that Ghanaians, we are very most of us are very reserved, we're just in our own corner doing our own thing. We don't want trouble, we don't want to be seen, we don't even like to speak about our accomplishments and our skills and our expertise, but that's not going to work here for you. You need to put yourself out there, go where people are going, let yourself be seen, especially on LinkedIn, on those professional platforms. Let yourself be seen, let your experiences be known, learn new things, show that you're proactive, and yeah, basically just put yourself out there and work hard and learn outside of school. So one thing that I realized after finishing my program, but I'm not going to talk too much into details about this. I will in a separate video if you comment, but one thing I learned is that a lot of the things in industry keep what's the word, like it's quite fluid, and the things we learn in school are also up to date, but by the time you finish a 1 year 2 year program, there may be a new system being used, there may be a new framework being used. So always go on LinkedIn, Glassdoor, look at the kind of career path you're looking for. What are the specific skill sets currently in demand in that job market or in that career pathway? Start to build on those. If you need to do it outside school, for sure, use your spare time, even if it's 5 minutes every day. Take 5 minutes every day, work on that skill, build that knowledge, so that after school, it's not just what you learn from school, but also what industry or what the current job market is looking for. You have those skills and you can provide them. So right now I have to learn so many other things like automated testing, Jira, Power BI. So the concept was taught in school, the kind of frameworks and tools we use, but these specific things are now what are in vogue in industry as a business analyst, and have to learn all those things by myself, which takes a little more time. So right when you enter the program, or even before you enter the program, start looking at these things, start studying them on LinkedIn, on Coursera, wherever. If you need to pay to come on education, pay for your education. If you need to pay for the programs or courses, do it, and you're gonna thank me for that, definitely.
Good.
And what's the next question? What is the best and advisable life to live as a newcomer in order to complete your program on time?
Yep, I would say with this, again, you came here mainly for studies, and that was what brought you into the country. Your visa stated that you are coming to study. So your primary focus when you arrive should be your studies. As I said, if you fail a course, so let's say you have a 1 year program, and in your fourth term you fail a course, the only time you can get to retake that course is the following year fourth term. So assuming you came in September, you were due to graduate in June and you fail a course, you have to, reset that course the following year, which means you cannot graduate. That's going to impact your study permits as well, because you have to pay to extend your permits. You can't work until the year after, because you can't work full time until the year after because you'll still be a student. So these are some of the things. So you should make sure that you are focusing on your books, on your studies. Make sure that you get at least the required grade to pass your program, right? To successfully graduate. Then after that, you can focus on work and all of that. And from experience, I've seen people who, because of work, because, again, they had to work to pay their fees, the focus was more on work than on, some of the requirements of the study. So they could not graduate. So in that case, they have to stay back and do one more year of study. So these are some of the risks associated with not focusing on school, on your books. So my advice is that keep that focus, and once you are able to excel and come out successfully, everything else would be in line for you. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. I don't know what to say. He said it all. And one thing I will also add personally, as someone who, I'm not a morning person, I'm not a night person, I don't know, like, I'm really just out here. But guys, one thing you need to do is plan. If you are a student and you are working, it's overwhelming. That's even before you add your other stuff you have going on at home, in your relationship and everything. So have a plan, have a study journal, like have a timetable for school, for work, just so that you don't miss school deadlines, you don't miss, like tests, you don't miss submission deadlines, course. I know instructors are humans, professors are humans. They may give you extension all the time, but as a professional going forward, if you have a mismanaged and untimely way of work, it affects you not just in school but going forward. So always make sure that you have a plan, have a timetable. You can write it down. You can have a whiteboard. I have a whiteboard that I like to write my stuff on, sticky notes, like a journal, and also a timetable. So different visual. If you're visual, have a visual board. If you just like to remember, have a timer, like in your clock, have alarms, but just plan your life out. You can have weekends for chilling and whatnot, but if every day you are chilling, you're at the park, you're at this party, you're at here, dude, 1 year is gonna come real soon and you wouldn't have achieved anything. So just plan and make sure you keep your education and your courses, priority as well in your plan, basically. Yeah.
Yep. So the next question here, if you can take this, Nana, it's saying, when is the best time to take your English exam? The English exam is your IELTS or any of those English proficiency exams. So when is the best time to take your English exams to prepare for PR application?
Actually, I don't know. Maybe you can answer this question.
Yeah. So I would say for most of the English exams, depending on which one you want to take. In Ghana, IELTS is more popular, but out here in Canada, there is IELTS sister called CELPIP, which you can also take as well. Either of these English exams are valid for 2 years. So if you do the calculation, whichever time you feel would be best, so you'll still be in the validity period in order for you to apply for a PR. Some people may decide to take it when they arrive here. That's actually what we did. We took CELPIP. That's the other one. We'll probably do a video and talk about our experience with CELPIP and why we went for CELPIP instead of IELTS. But again, it all boils down to you have 2 years validity. So make sure that when you write it and the time you'll be applying for your PR, the English test score is still valid as of the time when the PR application is being submitted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't want to answer it because I'm always mixing up the timelines, but exactly as he said. And look, guys, the reason I chose CELPIP is because I'm cheap. CELPIP is cheaper than the IELTS. That was the only reason I chose it. But yeah, I smashed it. I killed it. I murdered it.
She did, guys. It's like, I guess, one of the highest scores.
If you need tuition, come to my DM. Really cheap. No, but no, I'm not taking money. I'll probably do a video about what I did and how I was able to smash it. I used less than a month to study everything, and it wasn't constant studying because I was working, I'm schooling, doing YouTube, so I was just doing it in my pastime when I have a couple of minutes to spare, but definitely do a video if you're interested on how you can ace your cell pip and the strategy I used and the material I used as well.
Before we go to the last question, there is one question here in the chat. I think either of us can answer it. Someone is asking, can someone living in New Brunswick book Airbnb for you? When you land in NB, you refund the money to him. Well, I think I would take this.
No, let me
okay, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm laughing because probably if I say yes, then I know people are going to be in a DM asking me to book. My guys, I'm unemployed. I don't got no money. So you're looking for someone to book, not me. But I think you need to be really careful about these kind of situations when it comes to money and even booking. So Airbnb, you have the app on your phone, and we've traveled different countries where we booked our own place using Airbnb app, and Airbnb does all the validation checks for you. So if you use a third party, let's say you use Kwame and Nana, and you are coming from Ghana, and you want Kwame and Nana to book for you, and you find them once you come. You don't know how the place looks. We might show you video calls, you might go there and everything, but at that point, if we are booking under our account, then we are basically the ones supposed to live there, and we are basically the ones contracting whatever period of stay in the Airbnb. So it could cause problems when the host sees that Kwame and Nana booked the Airbnb, but now James is there, or Frank, or maybe Marie, or I don't know, Susan or something. So the best thing to do is create your own free account on Airbnb. You have a mobile app, you have a website. You need just a proof of like ID.
Yeah.
So have a valid ID, whatever kind of proof they need, show that, and book your own thing. Sometimes Airbnb gives you, the user, the luxury of actually booking a place where you can have a refund. If you say maybe 48 hours or 72 hours before the start of your stay, you need to cancel, you can get a 50% refund, 70% full refund, all those kind of stuff. You need to check that. But basically, it's not advised for someone else to book your own Airbnb if you are going to stay there. And even hotel, same thing. You can go to booking.com, you can go to the other sites, book your own hotel, upload your own ID, so that there's no conflict when the host sees that there was a different name that booked it, but a different person is now staying there.
Okay, good. Nana actually said it all. And for those of you who don't know Airbnb is more like a short-term leasing for places when you travel. So assuming you are coming here to study and you don't already have an accommodation, which is actually very difficult to find. Very difficult to find a long-term accommodation when you're outside of the country. What you usually do, actually that's what we did, was to book Airbnb when we arrived. We stayed at an Airbnb for like almost a month, and while there at the Airbnb, you can start looking, looking for places, find places and everything, right? So that's it about that. And also we have another question here in the chat. I believe this is regarding the English test score, Jeffrey, right? If I'm correct, he's asking, is it difficult? Maybe the self paper, is it difficult, and what is the duration and how much that cost?
I think how much it was, like $250
I think
dollars.
Including tax, you pay around $280 for the self pip. For
Canadian dollars.
Yes, yeah. No, it's 280 for the base without tax, plus tax around 320. You have to double check. Yeah,
320.
Yeah, you can double check that. And IELTS was a bit expensive. IELTS was around 350 including tax.
Yeah. So is it difficult? Personally, I would say no, but it's tricky and it's timed. So that's what gives people pressure. So you need to, before you take the exam, and I am going to do a video separately talking about everything, but just to answer this, before you take the exam, do timed exams at home just to see how fast you are. And the truth is, it's not really about you answering all the questions the way you think it is. There is a specific structure to use. So I'll talk about that as well. But generally, it's not so difficult. No, it's not.
Okay. And the last question we have here, unless if you guys want to put some more questions in the chat, I think we have about 15, no, about 17 minutes left, so still have some time. So the last question we have on our list, how is life in New Brunswick plus school? And someone is also asking, well, it's the same
Yeah,
question, but
same
it's
question.
asking, when is snow month?
Okay, so I think they mean like generally how is life in New Brunswick, how is the school, and then how is life as a student during snow period, like that's winter. Guys, if you've never traveled to a country that experiences winter, you'll be cold as hell. I don't want to say the other word, but that's how cold you'll be. You'll be extremely cold. We have lived in countries that have experienced winter but still felt cold. Fredericton is colder than St. John, so bear in mind. I don't know how cold Moncton is, but I had the chance of being in Fredericton and St. John during winter, and Fredericton is way, way, way colder. So for the snow, we did a video about how to dress warm, how to stay healthy during winter. But the thing is, you need to always have thermal wear. If it's your first time abroad, you will see people walking in short. Look, it was 2 degrees. It was cold as hell. People were wearing shorts, t-shirts. Say no, 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 don't be like them. You're gonna get sick and you're gonna regret doing that. Don't look at people and be like, oh, it might be, it's like 5 degrees, so I'm gonna go in short. No, wear your thermal pants, wear your thermal, inside shirts or whatever it is. Wear your sweater, wear your winter jacket, wear your boots, wear your socks. Always dress warm, because when you are sick from the cold, it's very, very, very painful. It's not easy. So I mean, the snow is beautiful, but it's very cold. So dress warm.
Yeah,
And
and just to add to the snow, this is just to chime in quickly. So if you're wondering how cold it is, especially here in New Brunswick, I think the lowest we had experienced during winter was around minus 30. That's how cold it can get, like
yeah,
minus 30.
yeah,
And there was one time, I think around January, February, where we had snowstorm upon snowstorm. So like
yeah,
every single weekend there was a snowstorm, and if we have snowstorm, let's say if it's a Friday or a weekday and there's snowstorm, school will have to cancel for that
yeah.
day. Session would have to be moved to online because people can't go
You
out.
can't
So
drive in the
that's how
snow. You
serious
can't
it
walk in
is.
the snow. We have a video about one snowstorm, but that was even a minor snowstorm. Like had major snowstorms in other cities and even across Canada. So bear that in mind and always stay warm. Always stay warm. You thank me for this this piece of information, but like generally life in New Brunswick, Fredericton and St. John, if you're from Accra, Kumasi, or you're from Budapest, or you're from anywhere in Europe, it's boring. I'll be honest with you, it's boring, but I feel like it's a good place to take your mind away from all these external influences that don't let you settle as an individual. If you have a family or you're starting to plan a family or you're thinking of your next steps, because it's boring, it gives you time to think, it gives you time to reassess your life decisions, because you're not always jamming, you're not at Pebble Pub, you're not at here, you're not at here. There are one or two clubs here, there are things happening during the summer, but also the weather is part. So during winter, people are mostly indoors trying to keep warm. In summer, they have activities, but winter and then, yeah, maybe fall, it's not that warm. So people are mostly indoors. But it's pretty boring to start, but it gives you time to do stuff, to learn different things outside of school or to work more, because during the holidays, you get a chance to work full time. So just take it as a blessing instead of focusing on the boring aspect.
Yeah.
Use it for other stuff. And the school itself, one thing I love about New Brunswick Community College is that they provide so many resources, online resources, virtual info sessions, in person. I believe when we were arriving, they had info sessions for people who've never lived in a country with winter before, which most schools don't do. So they tell you the same things we told you: dress warm, drink, hydrate a lot, hydrate your skin, hydrate with water, and just, know when to go out. Don't be going out at odd times, or you may get stuck in a blizzard or in a snowstorm. So take advantage of all those free tools and free resources. They even have, counselors and all that stuff. So generally, the school itself is great. The program might be tough, but the school is great, and the snow is hella cold. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have some questions here in the chat. Dominic is asking. He said, his wife is applying to NBCC, and a friend of his wife would probably be the one providing proof of funds. If that's okay, and what is our advice based on that? And they have kids as well. So I think, Dominic, you may have missed the beginning of the session. We spoke a little about if a relative can sponsor you. So it's highly advisable. If you would have a third party sponsor you, it should be a nuclear family, right? In the case where you would have someone outside of the nuclear circle to sponsor you, it's highly advisable to have them transfer the funds to you or something like this, because then the friend or whoever it is, they would need to give a very good reason why they are willing to give you over $22,000
A lot of money.
for free to come to studies, right? They should be able to convince whoever, the visa officer, whoever is going to review your application, why they are willing to give you that much money. And most of the time, these visa officers, they know some of these things. So you should find a way to convince them. So I would say, in my opinion, that if you can get that funds into your bank account, one of you's bank account, so either you or your wife, and then have that presented as the proof of statement, then that would be the best.
The ideal.
Yeah. And also for individuals coming with family, I think from the beginning we spoke about how much you would need in your bank account, right? Your first year tuition and $10,000 as proof of for living expense. But then if you are coming with your family, then that should be a bit more, because again, your wife, your kids are dependent on you, so you are required to have more funds, sufficient funds to take care of you for that 1 year while you are here. There is another question as well. Maybe
can I just talk quickly about before you take the other question? And in case, because this is quite common back home, that you have land, you have house, you have property. So if this is the case, you can use your property or your land as collateral, but always seek legal advice about this kind of stuff, because you wouldn't want the person to run away with. But just to say that you can use something as collateral, just to have that person transfer the money into your account, and then use that. You can even decide to, let's exchange. I give you the land, you give me the money, and take it from there. So always think outside the box. And one thing is that you cannot use property as proof of funds. It does not work. Even if you have a mutual fund, or you have some kind of savings account which has a time deposit or a fixed time on it before it can be accessed, your proof of funding is not going to pass through the radar, because they see that as, okay, this is maybe a 2-year mutual fund or 2-year fixed fixed account, which has a 2-year limit. You can't touch it within 2 years, but you're telling me you're coming to Canada next year and you have access to that money. So why would you go through paying the penalty or losing all the interest on the account or on the funds, or going to liquidate your land, your car, your house, just to come here? It doesn't make sense. So those things you cannot show a proof, a deed on a house or on a land, unless you have enough money in your account and that's showing as your backup. And if that's your only proof of funds, then I'm not sure it's going to go through. No.
Yeah. Okay. One other question here. I think I can take this one. Takrade Entertainment is asking, so what's the process like moving to NB through air? Do we have a straight land from Ghana to NB? So we didn't fly from Ghana because we weren't living in Ghana prior to moving here.
Okay.
But for what I know, there is no direct flight from Ghana even to Canada, right? You have to go through multiple routes. And even to New Brunswick, it makes it even more routes. So most of the time, you'll find yourself transiting, assuming you are flying with KLM, you'll find yourself going from Accra to Amsterdam, then from Amsterdam to either Toronto or Montreal. These two are the most popular main port of entries to Canada, either the Pearson Airport in Toronto or the airport in Montreal, and then from there you have to go another flight again to New Brunswick. So it's going to be multiple routes. You can always go to Google Flights or Kayak or any of these online apps that you can use to check flights and see which route would work for you and which price would work for you as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And the last question that we have here, and thanks very much, Amor, for answering the question Dominic asked regarding the proof of finance. Question from Dinah: which kind of jobs are available for dependent spouse who have an open work permit in New Brunswick? Do you like me to take that?
Yeah, I think you should take that.
Yeah, so what happens is, again, for those of you who don't know, if you are applying for your visa and you are married with kids, you can add them as your family to your application. So what happens is that your spouse, if it's your wife or your husband, they are going to be the dependent and they are going to be issued an open work permit, okay, for their stay. And the kids as well would have the permit to be able to stay for the duration of your studies. Now, when you guys are here, your spouse has an open work permit, so which means they can actually apply to any job, provided their experience and their background, they meet the requirement for the job, they can apply for it and then start working right away while the other person is still in school. Talking about what kind of jobs are available, I think in their case, they are allowed to work the normal 40 hours a week, so they can go for normal full-time jobs. You can decide to do the menial jobs, that's absolutely fine with you. But again, depending on your experience, the networking is very important as well. So from time to time, even here in New Brunswick, they do organize like job fairs that are open to anyone. So you can attend those as well. You can get to meet employers, talk to them. You can go on LinkedIn. Indeed is very popular when it comes to job search, Glassdoor. And over there as well, you can find jobs that may suit your background.
And one thing I'm going to talk about, it just came into my mind, is that if you're a newcomer, this is one thing we should have done, but we didn't. If you're a newcomer, immediately join your YMCA or your multicultural association in the city you are in New Brunswick, because they also provide things like resume writing tips, resume reconstruction, English, even English courses for people whose maybe English is not your first language, English your second language, so you need to brush up on your English skills. And sometimes internal referrals and even internal jobs. So take advantage of all the newcomer association, newcomer groups. You can find them on Facebook. You can even ask your instructor at school to give you their contact and they'll contact. So I think one reason I didn't take advantage of it, I wasn't there for the orientation at MBCC Fredericton. So these may have been, that kind of information may have been provided to my colleagues and my peers, but I wasn't there. So in case you're not going to be able to make it for orientation, just know that you can look for the YMCA or the Newcomers Association or the Multicultural Association in your city and join them and take advantage of the resources they provide.
Yeah. So we exhausted the question list we have here, and I think we are just 2-3 minutes until the top of the hour. So we would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who was able to join this session, and hopefully we were able to answer some of the questions and doubts that you had regarding studying in Canada and also moving to New Brunswick. I just posted in the live chat a link to our YouTube channel, so do subscribe. From time to time we do post very useful videos on there. Also, if you request some videos for us to do, and a lot of people request that, then we may find some time to do that as well. So do subscribe and share those as well. And you can find the link to our Facebook, our TikTok. We post some fun videos as well, and our Instagram. So you can always DM us on Instagram if you have any question, if you want to take it further, you need any special assistance with any of the things that we spoke about. We can look into those as well. So thanks very much. And also, if there is a popular demand or request for us to go live again, this is our first live, and sorry for the hiccup from the beginning, but again, if there is the demand, then we may probably look into